sat down to talk to you, and of course an aeroplane flies across, and this microphone will really pick it up well. Anyway, it's a beautiful day, and I wanted to come out to the woods as I often do with my faithful companion and talk about bushcraft knives. I did watch a video recently by a young chap called Forrester Bushcraft, which I thought was very interesting. The topic was about batoning knives, and there's a whole multitude of videos online on YouTube about whether you should baton a knife or not, and I thought I'd just give you the maker's perspective on it, really, because there's a few things that haven't been mentioned. So kind of ask the maker, what do you think about batoning your knives? The thing is that the knife is not the ideal tool for chopping wood. For chopping wood, ideally an axe. So certainly wood of a certain thickness, you know, you would want an axe. But then you get to the point where you want to make small kindling, and an axe becomes ungainly, possibly even dangerous, producing these finer sort of pencil-sized pieces of wood, especially if you're only going to be cutting up small diameter wood, you know, maybe as thick as your wrist perhaps. I mean, a knife then comes into its own, and with care, a good knife shouldn't have any problem whatsoever in batoning sensible wood. So at times like these I could do with a little bit more small fuel, I think. I haven't quite got enough small fuel, so I'm going to the axe is almost too much for that, really. That's the ideal job for a knife, a little batoning job. Nice and easily controlled. The only caveat to that is that some wood can be extremely knotty, or close grained and very twisted in its grain, and this can really cause difficulties for any knife. And I seen a knife once, and this was a knife with a flat grind on it, where the person had battened it through and it had followed the grain. It must have been a very hard old piece of seasoned oak or something, and it had followed the grain, and you could see the S-bend through the knife where the knife had followed the grain. I think this is less likely to happen with a Scandinavian grind, because you've got that sharp V of the Scandi, then you've got the full thickness and strength of the steel behind it, so it's unlikely to follow in that respect. But I would go along with what Forrester Bushcraft had to say in his video, and that is that if a knife is properly tempered, then you know, you shouldn't have any problems, really. And steel has amazing properties. Once it's been heat treated, you know, you can put them through all sorts of abuse, and I have done with very little harm. The noise you can hear, the rustling, is my dog walking, by the way. She's walking under the camera now. I've even put them in a vise at home, and I've bent them, you know, with a 2-ton vise, and I've bent them through quite crazy angles before now, and they return to true. so a properly tempered knife shouldn't have any difficulties really. The only time you might run into a problem with batoning is if you've got an extremely shallow angle Scandi, perhaps 11 or 10 degrees per side, then the edge won't be as strong. There's so many compromises in knife making. You know, you can have a very hard blade and it will hold its edge well, but it will chip. Or you can have a softer blade, it won't hold its edge so well, but it'll be very tough. Or you can have an acute, sharp angle, you know, and it will cut like a laser, but it'll be very weak. Or you can have a more obtuse angle, and it won't cut very well, but you'll never break the edge. And so the knife maker tries for the compromise of all of that, hence the 58, 59 Rockwell and 26 to 30 degrees inclusive angles which we put on Scandis. That tends to give you the middle ground. The other thing is that what can possibly go wrong with batoning is that maybe, okay, I don't think you're ever going to break the knife, but could the scales come away? Most knife makers go to extreme lengths to degrease and key up the scale material and the handle of the knife, the tang of the knife quite thoroughly, and drill holes through to allow through bonding of the glue. The epoxies, I got to refer to a piece of paper. I've written something down if I couldn't remember it. And I've got it in my pocket. I printed it off. Information regarding epoxy. This refers specifically to my knives, the Jackdaw knife, and builds from probably about 2 to 2.5 years, 3 years ago perhaps onwards, where I changed over to G-Flex 650, West Systems G-Flex 650, and this is what they say about this epoxy, that it's a toughened, versatile liquid epoxy for permanent waterproof bonding of fiberglass, ceramics, metals, plastic, damp and difficult to bond woods, with a modulus of elasticity of 150,000 psi. It is a bit more flexible than the standard epoxies and polyester, but much stiffer than adhesive sealants. This gives G-Flex 650 the ability to make structural bonds that can absorb the stresses of expansion, contraction, shock and vibration. So it's a pretty good epoxy and unlikely to fail through vibrations and shock, perhaps those that have been imparted via batoning. But again, I'm not sure about the testing of in extreme environments. For example, if you were in the Arctic or a very cold environment where temperatures went down to sort of -20 or -40 degrees centigrade, I can only imagine that perhaps the epoxy could become more brittle, and that batoning a knife in those conditions may possibly be not such a good idea. But I can't be sure. I've not tested handle retention at those levels. This then brings me on to another question about how you hold your handles on. I mean, some people use pins, some people use Corby bolts or loveless bolts, and some people believe that a knife fitted with Corby or loveless will have a more secure handle. I instantly fit a variety of hardware to my knives. Sometimes I'll fit Corby's, loveless or just plain pins, and I'm of the firm belief that they are equally as robust as the next, because the only thing which guarantees the integrity of a knife handle is the epoxy bond, and if that cracks, whether that knife be held on with Corby's or just ordinary pins, mosaic pins. If that cracks, then that allows for the ingress of moisture, and moisture will very quickly get in to that crack through capillary action, and the next thing you have is you have your steel, overrun steel will rust if it gets wet, if it gets moist, and so the handle has failed. So I think handles fitted with any type of pin or screw fixture are just equally as strong, really. So I think sensible batoning is permissible with your average bushcraft knife. Now moving on to another topic, occasionally a knife doesn't meet up with my required standards, and I have just such a knife on my hip today, and I thought I'd just keep this one for myself because you know, I haven't had a recent knife that I've kept for myself. I've got my old one that I built many years, well 3 or 4 years ago now actually, and that was in 4mm with a tapered tang, and I thought, well, I wanted a 3mm, so I built this one. I was going to sell it, but it came out with a bit of a flaw. And it's a beautiful knife in all ways, but it's not really a flaw, but yeah, if the camera's going to focus on that, it's just a mark in the wood actually. This has got solid pins, stabilised bird's eye maple, so I thought I'd keep it for myself. Yeah, that's what I'm wearing on my belt for the time being. Listen to the noise it makes when it goes into the sheath. I love that. Another question I get asked are, what are mosaic pins, and what is a tapered tang, what are fibre liners for? And to most of us, you know, we know what all these things are for, and it's a question I get asked a lot by people that are new coming into the hobby or becoming interested in knives, and it's a question I get actually tired of answering, to be quite frank. So I'm going to answer it here, and anyone that asks me again, I'll just know referring to this video. So firstly, a tapered tang is where you remove steel from the tang and you narrow the tang down. The advantages are more aesthetically pleasing, to be honest with you, and it demonstrates a bit more of the knife maker's skill and craft. If you have an especially heavy handle material, then you may want to taper the tang to improve the knife's balance, but that can also be achieved by drilling the tang to remove steel, or hollow grinding the tang a little bit to remove steel, to obtain the same balance. So a tapered tang is more really to do with visual aesthetics and how the knife looks, and it is a very nice addition to a 4mm knife, for example. I wouldn't taper the tang of a 3mm because it's already sort of thinnish anyway, and you don't really want to weaken the handle too much. So I only taper 4mm, or if I were to build thicker knives from a thicker stock, then I taper those also. So basically it's just for aesthetic purposes. Fibre liners, again today I think they're also more for aesthetics and look, but there was a reason why in the past they were used, and it's information that I gleaned from Del Weber from Red Path Knife and Tool in the video that he published about a year or two back, and he says basically that the reason why fibre liners were used is that they act like a gasket, and in years gone past the epoxies weren't as good as what they are today, and you used to get tannins, especially from certain woods, possibly like oak. The tannin could affect the epoxy and cause the epoxy to break down, or it could react with the wood and cause corrosion. So the liner acted as a gasket, a go-between. So that's how they came about. But today I think generally the reason for their use is one of aesthetics. So I think that basically covers all the questions to the answers to the questions that I had about batoning, about tapered tangs, and about fibre liners. So that's it, guys and gals. Thanks for watching just a short video, and hope that's cleared up a few points for you. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.